Doing? What's going on? What are you up to? Me? Oh, well, I'm talking to you, so that's good. Welcome to the stream for Monday, March 18th. Your old pal, Justin Robert Young, joining you from Austin, Texas, as the Wall Street Journal is referring to it, the cooling market of Austin, Texas. But, sometimes being cool is pretty cool, my opinion. We have, the biggest story remains, at least according to the Sunday shows, TikTok. This TikTok story is the biggest in the country, politically. That is on top of what is happening in Gaza. That is in top of what will be a pretty, I think, an actually like a for real serious primary in Ohio. And of course, the fact that Donald Trump said the word bloodbath. So we'll talk about that. But right now we have TikTok. And let me just say this. If you are not a patron of the Politics program, then you do not get our PX3 Extra. Right? I'll give you just a little peek. But now the PX3 Extra has a video component, a video version. Used to be audio only. But if you're not familiar with this concept, hello and welcome everybody to the Politics Extra, your Sunday. It's
Sunday
me going through all of these
recorded on St.
clips.
Donald Trump.
You because it was
on
a little
it
muddled.
was. Look, I want people to
on
know
the Sunday shows.
was a vote for it.
We added a
Anyone
little
that doesn't think that the
picture
Chinese
element to
Communist
it.
Party would like to.
But the reason why I want to bring that up is not to tempt you to go to takepoliticsseriously.com and sign up at the $3 level, although that'd be nice if you did. It's that I watch a lot of these clips from the Sunday shows. And what I always say about the Sunday shows is that you shouldn't take them seriously about what's actually happening in the world. What you should take them seriously about is what DC wants you to think is happening in the world. And when I say DC, I mean the media, I mean the major political operatives, the bureaucracies. They want you to think something. And so they are going to go present and be guests on these shows that they know DC watches. It is in a lot of ways DC talking to DC. And I'll tell you this, what DC wanted to talk about was TikTok. And it's with that I say the following. I don't think ByteDance is going to own TikTok, or TikTok will not exist in America by the end of the year. Because I'm running out of places where this train stops. And if it continues to be the number one issue, then the momentum is just gonna push this thing over the finish line. And we're already at a tenuous place because the only person that right now is not rushing to make it law is Chuck Schumer, and that dude hates China more than anybody. So let me give you two different pieces of media that I thought were very good about this. Number one, Tom Merritt put out an episode of Know a Little More that, of course, is in part produced by Dog and Pony Show Audio. It is about ByteDance, but it's really about this bill. Specifically, Tom advocates for the position that the current set of data that we have available publicly does not show that the CCP can access the algorithm to manipulate Americans or are accessing data after the Project Texas deal that was done. So if you want a steel man argument for ByteDance, I would listen to Know a Little More. Now, if you want the exact opposite, if you want the total opposite, and by the way, I would say if you are super pro banning TikTok, listen to Tom. If you are super against banning TikTok, I would suggest you listen to our friend Ryan McBeth. Ryan McBeth is a hopefully now a regular guest on our show because I really enjoy his perspective. But he is an open source signals analyst, aka he does YouTube videos and Substack blogs about things that you can find publicly. So it'll be about geopolitical matters, but he'll use publicly available resources to kind of track stuff down. These are the kind of things that we used to call journalism. But I digress. He is very anti-TikTok. And he makes a couple arguments. Some I found more persuasive than others. But the one that I think is the most compelling is a basic one. That currently the FCC does not allow a foreign entity without approval to buy a television or radio station. Now, obviously, television and radio are different than the internet. Hell, they're different from newspapers because they are federally regulated. However, the question of scale is an interesting one to me. Should a social media company be able to be foreign owned at that size? Especially if the foreign country is not a very friendly one. It's not like a Canadian company or a British company. Hell, it's not a German company. It's China. China, I think by any and all reasonable metrics, is our number one geopolitical frenemy. Obviously, we are tied together economically, but certainly there is nobody that can rival us militarily. And as we've seen happen on the other side of Ukraine, the people behind the United States and China, it's a pretty steep drop. Russia was supposed to be number 3, and they don't look particularly good. Now, here's what I would say, or I did say on the podcast that came out on Monday. If Henry Kissinger were 45 years old, the TikTok algorithm would have been on GitHub a year ago. I'm going to reiterate this point. Why do we even have a CIA if they're not going to steal the TikTok algorithm and front it through pro-democracy Chinese activists, put it up on GitHub for the world to see? So all of the algorithms can get better and we can understand exactly what it is. It's 8 in the morning and you're in Texas. How are you this awake? Brother, I've been up since 5:30 in the goddamn morning. Woke up, made coffee, gave it to my wife, got the hell out of the house, hit the gym, had the 1 mile benchmark today. Bop, 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 bop. Not my fastest, to be totally fair. Working through a bit of a foot blister situation, bit of a knee situation. Still, let's see, what did I do 1 mile in? I did 1 mile in 7 minutes and 24 seconds. That's what I did. Not my fastest. Fastest was 6:50 about a year ago. Made coffee, gave it to my wife, yelled at Peter Parker for more pics of Spider-Man. I'm in a J.K. Simmons, I'm in a J. Jonah Jameson phase. I'll tell you what, the new haircut. I got my haircut with old Andy Heats on Friday. I can't say I'm a morning person. It's something I strive for, but fail. Darth, let me tell you this. I was never a morning person. I was always somebody that stayed up until 4 o'clock in the morning, and I slept until about 10 or 11. The number one thing, if you want anything in your life to have order, is bedtime. It's one of those very infuriating things. It's all simple. Nothing is more annoying than when simple advice is right. Simple advice you've heard a billion times is right. Literally get to bed at the same time every night. That's it. Depending on when you get to bed, if you get to bed at the exact same time every night, the rest of your world will have order because you'll be able to wake up at the same time every day. Friendly says censorship is always bad for United States citizens. Well, I mean, the argument that you saw made over and over and over and over again by politicians is this is not a ban. This is not a ban by TikTok, a ban of TikTok. This is a forced divestiture from ByteDance. So what they want is to separate ByteDance from TikTok. By the way, we would not be the first major country to out and out ban TikTok if we did. That would be India. India is where TikTok started, and it got banned. Now, India borders China. They've been in actual shooting wars with China. But we should understand that. The problem is that right now they are the best in the game. TikTok's an exceptional platform. I'll say that personally. A lot of people just upload a lot of shit that I like to see. Dumb sketch comedy, old clips, interviews with Bill Hader. Just things that I like. Just Gerb's shit. If the U.S. doesn't get full access to the source code, the divestiture is useless. Still, don't let that app have any access to my network or devices. The algorithm is not coming with it. The Chinese government has already said that. They will not allow ByteDance to sell or license the algorithm. Which, you know, whenever you're talking about how separate, like Tom Merritt has been a student of this game for a very long time. I would never really question his output and his editorial sense. But in the Know a Little More episode, I'll tell you what I had critiques of the Know a Little More episode and critiques of the Ryan McBeth piece. Critiques of the Know a Little More episode would be, we spend a lot of time in that episode talking about how not Chinese ByteDance is. But when the question of will TikTok be sold to an American company, it was then Microsoft in 2020 came up. China said, we will not allow the ByteDance algorithm to be sold. We won't allow it. ByteDance makes a lot more money in China than it does in America. So they are, even if we are just operating under the guidelines that this is a private company, they will protect their most profitable market over America. So regardless of how much we do or don't think that China is influencing the algorithm currently or accessing our data currently, they do have control over whether or not the algorithm would be sold. That's not in question. But I do think it's relevant. Secondarily, the Ryan McBeth episode. He does a whole thing about how using TikTok's advertising, he would be able to shut down the Beltway, and demonstrates how using those tools, the advertising tools, he would seek to do that. Now, I believe his larger point is that this would be feasible because TikTok's user base is currently very radicalized. That's his point. It's his perspective. And he shows a clip of somebody doing a young woman doing an anti-Semitism. And I'm going to define anti-Semitism because I think that gets thrown around a lot as ascribing to all Jews or a random Jew the motivations or sinister milieu of another Jew that you don't like. That's what I'm going to define anti-Semitism as. Transferring, I don't like Bibi Netanyahu, so this dude on the subway in a yarmulke grosses me out and I don't like him. That's where I'm going to define anti-Semitism. And so McBeth's point is that this works because the audience on TikTok is radicalized. Now, nothing that he has shown, I think, is incorrect in terms of targeted advertising, but you're essentially making the same argument as Cambridge Analytica, and I don't know exactly how much I believe the Cambridge Analytica argument. Again, it really goes on to how much you believe his argument that TikTok's audience is particularly radicalized. And particularly radicalized on Israel-Palestine. Yeah, China has violently invaded. Like, they are not friendly neighbors. If we are frenemies, they are less than that. So, On the Capitol Hill side of it, you've obviously got a lot of money from the TikTok investors. But the question then becomes, for a lot of these institutional investors, it's not like they haven't taken gigantic write-downs before. At what point does the kitchen just become too hot? And they're like, fuck it, what can we get? Steve Mnuchin, Bobby Kotick, Microsoft, let's all get in a room and we'll see how high we can drive this price. Who wants a very, very, very nice car without an engine? That's what you're essentially buying with TikTok. 177 million users, the hottest property in media without the engine that makes it go. Knooch, go do TikTok in China. It's a lot of kids winning math competitions and chess tournaments in the U.S. It's a lot of content meant to radicalize. So I don't love that argument, first and foremost, because it is very pedantically untrue. TikTok is not available in China. Douyin, the Chinese app, also run by ByteDance, using the same algorithm, is available in China. Even if you don't imagine that China leans on that app to provide, nutritious things, you can never have a TikTok exist in China because our capacity for free speech is just not, we're not even in the same league as China. They actively suppress far more than anything that we would do. Douyin and TikTok indeed do have the same algorithm. Yeah. Anyone who buys it is getting a lemon. Fastest consumer departure ever. I don't know. I mean, would a shittier version of TikTok's algorithm be enough? A lot of these platforms kind of have a bit of a curve anyway. Are we at peak TikTok right now? If nothing happened, are we at peak TikTok? Has it become whatever the Gen Alpha version of Chugi would be? On Friday's episode of PX3, we spoke to Gabe Fleischer, a very talented young reporter who writes a newsletter, Wake Up to Politics. And he's in college. He's a young pup, this guy. I always, I don't like to play up the fact that he's that young because I do believe he deserves respect for the work that he puts out. And I don't just want to be like, look at the adorable kid reporter. But he was talking about, in college, that it is a thing to do to restrict your TikTok access just because you think that it is bad for you. If it stops showing randos and starts showing celebs and news content, it will be a disaster. Well, I mean, there's another question of exactly how profitable TikTok is. Let me just say this. This is me talking out of school, but not from a fully uninformed place. I've known a few people that have worked at TikTok. They are not confused if they are a Chinese company. They know their bosses are in Beijing. They know that they are going to get emails at weird times of the day. Not something that they are confused about. They know. They know better. Number two, like a lot of these sites, YouTube, Twitch, there's a real question of profitability. There's still a question of whether or not YouTube is profitable for Google. Now, Google would never get rid of YouTube because with YouTube, they own a part of the culture. Amazon might sell Twitch, but whoever buys them would be buying it because they would be buying part of the culture. You want to have a say in it. Is TikTok profitable? No one would buy Twitch because then they would have to pay Amazon for the AWS at market. I mean, unless that was part of the deal, that you were able to lock in some kind of a sweetheart deal for it. And who knows? Who knows whether or not... I don't know who would buy Twitch. I have no idea. It's like too big to be cheap, and it's too expensive to be interesting. Like, it makes sense for Amazon because of AWS. Amazon is only not making money on Twitch because they pay themselves at market rates. I don't know if that is the case because I know they're also really bad at advertising. I don't know. Anything else will just be scuttlebutt and rumor that I've heard. I mean, Microsoft maybe, but also like, why do they want to get into that business? They tried to do it. They didn't like it. They're not a particularly big ad seller. That's what you need to be to make TikTok profitable. Not TikTok. Well, you would also need to be a big ad seller to make TikTok profitable, but you would need to make Twitch profitable. I don't know. I don't want to get into a bunch of hypotheticals about Twitch being sold because I have no idea about anything. Amazon paid $970 million for it originally. I know, and that's cheap too. All right, we're gonna remind me some point next year. At some point next year, there might be more to tell about some of this. P. Guyton, I could see Facebook rolling it into threads. I don't think that would pass regulation. Is King Charles dead? I agree with Justin. It's not important if Amazon is making money with Twitch. Amazon thinks that it's important. I will say that. I know for a fact. Amazon is not a big loss leader company. They are the company that became a behemoth because they could squeeze a 5-cent margin out of paper towel rolls and then turn their biggest cost into their biggest revenue generator with AWS. There's supposed to be a royal announcement in a few minutes. Uh-oh. Hold on. Let me go into my... British rumor mill. Yeah, they don't seem to have... Let me check the more private British rumor mill. Nothing. Nothing yet. Are you going to watch the Don Elon interview so we don't have to? Do you really want me to? I guess there's a market for me just being tortured watching dumb shit. I will say I don't think the king is dead, because when the queen died, my little rumor group chats, my British Power Center group chats knew about that shit like 9 hours before it got publicly announced. So I don't think that it is something like that. I would guess it's a Kate thing. Don Lemon, you're free. You're free from CNN. Please just be a drunk travelogue guy. No one, you've never been more beloved than when you just got drunk and would just do weird Don Lemon shit. And you would just have, you know, these like drunk, live, like, I'm just going to be more open this year. I just think I'm going to be more open. That's great. Good shit. The royal announcement. Stand back and stand by. It's me, your favorite princess. I'm Kate Middleton now. Kate's in Gaza. Kate actually won the election. That's true. That's true. By a lot. By a lot. That's one of the I'm working on a new impression. Okay. So the Trump impression, feel like it's in a pretty good place. But there's a specific kind of Trump that I'm currently obsessed with. It's obviously reading from the teleprompter Trump. Because I've watched a lot of this man talk. You know when he is going off the top of the dome, and you know when he is reading. And it's when he's going off the top of the dome, he's very like just out there, but it's very like leave a bunch of space for it. So like if he's just talking like Nancy Pelosi. Nancy. So nice Nancy. Nice Nancy. That's what I would say. Nasty Nancy, if you ask me. Nasty Nancy now. But nice to nasty. Like that's what he'll do. If he's just riffing, right? That's what he does. But here's my new impression. Trump obviously reading off the teleprompter. So we're going to lead into it with him talking off the top. Nasty Nancy would not allow the appropriate security on January 6th. The radical left Democrats have gone too far. There's just something about, I think I just need to put two sentences together, but it just always starts with the radical left Democrats and their allies in the mainstream media believe that you are not well. It's just always the radical left Democrats. The radical left Democrats are, that's just like, for whatever reason, that's like always the line I think of when he starts reading off the teleprompter. When he's reading, you get the large sniffs. Did we want to talk about the bloodbath thing? Did anybody take the bloodbath thing seriously? No judgment. No judgment. Don't be dicks in the chat. Is anybody scared that Donald Trump said the phrase bloodbath on Saturday? Yeah, Elizabeth, 100% tariffs. Nobody's talking about that. Nobody's talking about 100% tariffs. All right, let's watch the clip. Let's find the clip. We'll watch the clip. All right, let's actually we'll just watch. This is Morning Joe as promoted by the Biden campaign. Here we go.
He's talking about a bloodbath for America. It's laid out in the terms of it. And these idiots on Twitter, these idiots on cable news, these idiots on Sunday shows going, well, yeah, well, presidents, you know, he was talking only about the auto industry, and this is one.
Does their audio sound like shit? Like, because I know that they record this in their living room in Palm Beach, but it doesn't have to sound like I'm recording this in my spare room. It doesn't sound like I'm recording it in my spare room because I've taken the care to make it professionally mic'd. Does the audio sound like shit to anybody else?
It's just bullshit. Let me say that at 6:15 a.m. It's just bullshit. He knew what he was doing. We're not stupid. Americans aren't stupid. He was talking about a bloodbath. Sometimes a bloodbath means a bloodbath.
Okay, they're not going to play the clip. They're not going to play the clip. Let's find somebody to play the clip. Well, hold on. No, you want to know what? Let's play another Morning Joe. Morning Joe made a meal of this. They made a meal of this today. Let's do another clip here. This is John Beckloss. He is a presidential historian. I've actually read a few of his books.
That's how fascism and totalitarianism, and in Germany's case, the Holocaust came to Germany, which had been...
We're starting off hot. Let's get right to Hitler. Right to Hitler.
A country where there were big institutions of democracy until, as you well know, the early 1930s. In a way, Donald Trump has done us all a favor, because if you and I have been talking, Mika, let's say 20 years ago, and we had been talking about what would have seemed like a very abstract and distant subject of how fascism and dictatorship might come to America, you probably would have been more wiser. I would have said you would have had some smiling person pretending to be a normal candidate like all the candidates for president who had gone before all the way back to 1789. And suddenly, after getting elected, that person would use the enormous powers of the presidency that are given to that person by the Constitution. In a way, Donald Trump has made it easier because...
What the fuck is this guy even talking about? All right, hold on. Let's get your chat there, because I want to see your chat messages. Okay, let's... We need... Tell you what, Elon. It is the oh no, everybody's playing the Morning Joe shit. The Republicans are playing the Morning Joe shit because they want to laugh at Morning Joe. That's why these are the only clips here. Can we not get a goddamn clip? Can I get a clip? Okay, here we go. This is this was the opening to ABC World News Tonight. We're going to play all this and then hopefully find an actual clip.
Tonight with the race for the White House and former President Trump's campaign now on the defensive after his fiery rhetoric at a rally in Dayton, Ohio on Saturday night. Trump warning while discussing the economy that there would be a, quote, bloodbath if he is not reelected in November. This after the former president kicked off the event by paying tribute to those who attacked the U.S. Capitol on January 6th. President Biden's campaign swiftly denouncing those comments as threats of political violence.
I mean, when you see the clip, this stuff is actually really funny. All right. Here's a clip that Hillary Clinton quote tweeted.
And you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine, and you're not going to...
It's just hard when he's, because again, this is off the top of the dome Trump. There's no like the radical left Democrats. There's none of the rat-a-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat. I'm definitely reading. I'm Donald Trump. Like there's none of that. This is him going off the top of the dome, but it's still so hard to get anything clean with him. So
be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it.
Doesn't even get a reaction because the thing that got a reaction will play before.
But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine.
All right. When you guys see the full thing, it's actually a kind of Rorschach test. I will tell you why it kind of matters.
Mexico has taken over a period.
Okay, here we go. This is the minute clip.
Mexico has taken over a period of 30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it, went to Mexico. China now is building a couple of massive plants where they're going to build the cars in Mexico and they think that they're going to sell those cars into the United States with no tax at the border. Let me tell you something to China. If you're listening, President Xi, and you and I are friends, but he understands the way I deal, those big monster car manufacturing plants that you're building in Mexico right now, and you think you're going to get that, you're going to not hire Americans, and you're going to sell the cars to us. No, we're going to put a 100% tariff on every single car that comes across the line, and you're not going to be able to sell those cars. If I get elected, now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole, that's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country. That'll be the least of it. But they're not going to sell those cars. They're building massive factories. A friend of mine,
So it's pretty clear that he's talking about the he's talking about foreign trade and the auto industry. Now, nobody's going after him for saying that he's going to essentially kill the concept of foreign companies importing that China's
30 years, 34% of the automobile manufacturing business in our country. Think of it. Went to
No. Stop that. You better stop playing. You knock it off, Donnie Trump. So, like, he's saying it's going to be a bloodbath in terms of more American jobs. Here's what, if I'm going to take the bloodbath thing seriously, here's how I would take it seriously. The fact that the Biden administration is seizing on this, and this is the third time that they are desperate. The number one thing they need is Donald Trump to say crazy shit. And the problem is Donald Trump is not saying crazy shit at the same frequency that he used to. Or he says the same crazy thing over and over and over again, and therefore it doesn't become particularly news value, right? Like if he says that the election is rigged, okay, although the term rigged has, kind of been, it's kind of jumped the shark since Katie Porter saying it, right? So you can't really squeeze something out of that. The last three things were Putin, do whatever you want, which, look, if you really want to believe that Donald Trump is Putin's cock holster, as Stephen Colbert called him, then that's fine. You're welcome to do it. I don't exactly see the grand master plan and logic, but, I'm a public school graduate from Florida, so what the hell do I know? It seemed clear to me that he was telling a story that happened years ago, but, and that was when Putin was not invading a nation that's next door to a NATO country, therefore possibly triggering a world war. So that's one thing. Second thing was, he can't remember his wife's name. See, he's old too. Can't remember his wife's name. And it was pretty clear that he didn't say Melania, I said Mercedes. And if you think that Mercedes just came out of thin air, then I guess that seems really embarrassing. But he's at CPAC and he's talking to the founder of CPAC's wife, Mercedes. And then we have this, the bloodbath one. It's like, to quote Trump, if these are the crazy Trump clips, the Biden campaign is not sending their best. Put that aside for a second, though. Why did that crowd go insane when he said he was going to put 100% tariffs on cars made in China? Any guesses? Why did that crowd go? Why'd they go nuts when he said, I'm gonna make essentially it insanely unprofitable for China to be able to sell cars in America unless they build them in America? Because they don't like affordable cars. Because it's a Clinton thing. Union auto workers, we're getting close. China bad, little bit. Part of the auto industry is in Ohio. Ding, ding, diddly, ding, ding, ding. C-Spawn. Look at that crowd. That crowd is likely the children or even the children's children of people that feel very, very betrayed on what they expected their options to be in that region. Ohio, Michigan, Pennsylvania. The Rust Belt voters that have decided the last 3 elections. They believe that they had jobs that were taken away from them faster than they would have happened naturally because of free trade agreements made by both parties. Donald Trump appeals to them because he appears to be different than the kind of politicians, both as a Democrat and a Republican, that led to those policies. So him not saying, we believe that free trade is the greatest thing that's ever happened in the world, instead saying, screw free trade, I will essentially turn those factories, the day that I get elected, those factories are just going to be, empty because no one's actually going to invest in them if they can't sell them into America. Or like, you better talk about building things in America. Don't be talking about building things in Mexico. That's anti-free trade. And those people love it because they don't associate free trade with anything good for them. And you wonder why what used to be the blue wall, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Minnesota, what used to be the blue wall is something that is teetering for the Democrats. Allowed Donald Trump to win in 2016 because the Democrats are focusing more on Bloodbath, reinforcing for people that have probably already decided that the orange man is indeed bad. They're reinforcing for them as opposed to talking to those voters. Why did those voters go insane when he said, I'm going to put 100% tariff? Does Trump love Elon? No, he's had a really complicated relationship with Elon. He's talked a lot of shit about Elon. As an Irish woman, orange men are bad. Deep cut. Deep cut. You love to see it. That was, so the Syracuse University mascot now is the indefinite orange, but back in the day was the very gendered orange men and orange women. And that was told to us when you are visiting abroad, specifically in Ireland. Do not just call yourself an orange man and expect things to be super cool. And whatever you do, don't call half of a Guinness that you drop a Jameson whiskey and Bailey's into the center of and drink as an Irish car bomb. American colloquialisms that do not translate. We were very specifically told that. What do they call those? I don't know. Just some shit, you know, just some shit Americans do. I don't even know if it's a real thing in Ireland. Yeah, Boilermakers. Is a Boilermaker just a shot in a beer? Do you drop the beer in the shot? TMS where they drove Justin away with broken braids. Nobody drove anybody away from TMS. There's only just so much of me to go around, man. I only got so much time. I'm trying to do a bunch of stuff, man. But stuff behind the scenes, stuff in front. You know, trying to keep my life together. Yeah, there's just only so much time. I do need to go back on TMS sometime soon, though. More feature story. Man, we do need Kevin on again. It's been a minute since Kevin hasn't been on in a month and a half. I gotta have him back on. Minnesota voted blue in 2016 and 2020. Weren't you thinking of Wisconsin? No, Minnesota would be a part of the Democratic blue wall. So I wasn't saying that they voted red, although they were closer to voting red than they have been in the past, because Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Ohio tend to be kind of a spectrum, a Midwestern Rust Belt kind of spectrum. Minnesota being the most liberal, Ohio being the most conservative, and the intervening states in the middle. And so lately, that's the game of tug of war that like has defined the election. So like if a Democrat could pull Ohio blue, the Republicans are fucked. If a Republican could pull Minnesota red, then the vice versa. That's my point. But the blue wall falling in 2016, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, you know, yes, they got all but one brick, but still, the wall fell. That was that. Are the Tories going to replace Sunak? I think the Tories are just going to get replaced based on the polling that I've seen. You know, the only thing that's I keep forgetting the labor leader's name in the UK because I don't pay a ton of attention to it. But I was listening to Stories of Our Times, one of my favorite podcasts that keeps me in touch with British politics. And they were doing a story about how the current labor leader, Starmer, Kit Starmer, had like one big goal: make the Labor Party not anti-Semitic. That had been a major problem during the previous leaderships. You had Jewish labor ministers leave and make a big stink about it. So he's like, let's just not make things anti-Semitic. And then October 7th happens. It's just like, oh no. Question for you to pop on Heaton. Has there been a case where protectionism has been fully removed? I cannot imagine so, as the losses tend to be concentrated and the benefits of trade are diffuse. I don't know. Like, has there been a pure free trade country? I would imagine if it were to be the case, it would be a particularly small industry dominant country, because you would be at the better end of that. And so, you know, people were selling things into your country, then it wouldn't be the end of the world. The RNC has a major cash problem with a lot of their money going to Trump's legal defense. How is this going to affect get out the vote? So we do need to be careful, because yes, the Republican Party does have a gigantic cash crunch, but we don't know if the money is going to Trump's legal defenses. Trump has raised a lot of money to pay for his own legal defenses. So the Trump campaign certainly has paid a lot of his legal defenses. The RNC, which does have a cash problem, we don't know if that is the case. So might be a distinction without a difference to you, but you know, for the sake of us keeping a central idea, until we see that, let's just understand that that is what it is. Will it affect get out the vote? Yeah. I mean, the argument for why Ronna McDaniel needed to be replaced was that get out the vote sucked for the last two election cycles, period. You know, Jennifer Van Laar, who I'd love to have on the show. Jennifer, I very much enjoyed your reporting on Red State. I'd love to have you on the podcast. Please. We'd love to talk to you, because I think she did really interesting reporting on the RNC, and it essentially chased Ronna McDaniel out. That reporting was that their budgets, that their expense reports were spending as much on fruit as it was on data banks and get out the vote tools. Probably shouldn't happen. Buy your own fruit. The larger implication was that you had a lot of contractors and donors that were getting real chummy. And ultimately, the final product for what a party should be was left out of it. Now, you've seen a bloodbath in the Republican Party, and I think that that's to be expected, especially if things were just problematic there before in terms of spending. But do I think that that will be a problem because they're paying Trump's legal expenses? If they are paying Trump's legal expenses by the end of this cycle and they still don't have the get out the vote stuff, then yeah, I do think so. But yeah, I wonder, you know, we're going to have Don LoBianco on the show this week. He did a great story about the professionalism of the RNC, but one man's professionalism is another man's re-swampification of the RNC. And so you've got a lot of OG MAGA people that are like, well, you're just putting a bunch of Republican political operatives back in charge. Now, there might be an argument to say that a competently run Trump campaign is going to win. that a Trump campaign that does not have a bunch of unforced errors will lose. Especially now as we look into the landscape, and it looks like the only case against Trump that will probably reach a conclusion before Election Day is the Stormy Daniels one. Is the RNC leadership supposed to be strengthening GOTV and down ballot outreach? That's the argument. Yes, that is part of what the firings throughout the organization were allegedly supposed to be about. Now, will they? We'll see. The RNC co-chair that legal fees are on the table. I have not read that personally. I have no idea if you're talking about Laura Trump or, God damn it, who's the Republican North Carolina guy who's the new head of the RNC? New head RNC North Carolina. Michael Whatley. But it's Michael Whatley, Laura Trump, and Chris LaCivita. Chris LaCivita was running Trump's campaign with Susie Wiles up until now. So he's the connection point between the party and the campaign. But Michael Whatley is somebody that, has won fairly close races. North Carolina is a purple state. So he is somebody that is used to, fighting in contested things. So we'll see. He's now elevated to the big chair. Deliver, and you're doing good. Don't deliver, and you're doing bad. Trump is running a better campaign this time. I don't think that there's much of an argument for that. Much of an argument against that. Not as mighty DH. He is. Like, the events are run tighter. The messaging is a lot tighter. They're a lot quicker with stuff. They can still command the spotlight from Truth Social. Like, now, does that preclude them totally pulling unforced errors like they did in 2016 and 2020? No. Was that fatal in 2016? No. Was it in 2020? Yes. Yes, they were. Why is Biden's campaign so bad compared to Trump's? So there's technical stuff, art of campaigning stuff that I am noticing. Full throat clearing. I'm not a campaign expert, nor do I have a political science degree, nor have I worked in campaigns. I'm just a barking dog on the internet. Woof, woof, woof. But by polling, Donald Trump is at his most popular that he has been ever. And Joe Biden is less popular. Not than he's ever been, but he is certainly less popular than his average. Now, we keep hearing, yeah, but wait till the race really starts. Wait till the race really starts. Wait till it really starts. And, the State of the Union was supposed to be when it really started. And Biden's poll numbers went down. They rolled out a $30 million ad campaign that you're going to be seeing a lot if you're watching March Madness. In that, he talks about abortion third in the list of things. And he says the same thing the Democrats have said for the last 30 years. Roe versus Wade. Personally, I disagree with that strategy. I personally think saying the exact same thing that every Democratic politician has said for the last 3 decades after that particular precedent fell It's not a good idea. What you would want is a new way to tackle and invigorate that issue, which I do think is huge. My personal pick would be women's health. Women's health is under attack. Do you know that women's health is under attack? Do you know even whether or not you want to have an abortion, the concept of terminating a pregnancy for medical reasons is currently complicated in states that had trigger laws that went into effect after Roe versus Wade. The Republicans broke it and now they have to buy it. Either you change your laws or we will create a federal law that makes this better. That's what I would do. That's just me. That's what I would do. But, you know, also in that ad, Joe Biden brags about passing the best climate change legislation ever. You know what he's referring to with that? The Inflation Reduction Act. A bill they had to change the name of to get it through the Senate. And now at least they're calling it what it really always has been, which is a climate bill. But it certainly didn't reduce inflation. It doesn't seem like going to support base. I haven't seen many former D voters moving to R. Well, in these polarized times, somebody switching parties is vanishingly rare. What Trump is hoping for is people that might have voted for Biden in 2020 for pandemic reasons are so disgusted by the Biden presidency that they will vote for Trump this time. And, you know, the Biden campaign is hoping that 2020 coalition stays together. And of course, you know, Trump is hoping that Democratic voters are just not enthusiastic and won't be enthusiastic by November, and we'll just be ready for Biden to be gone. And whatever. Trump will be done. Biden will be done. We can move on. Those independents who put Trump over the top in 2016 are not voting for him again. Well, I mean, there's also the shifting coalition of working class blacks and Latinos and Asians. I never really know how much to believe the hype with that. I think any conservative who is believing that Donald Trump is going to get 20% black vote is snorting some serious hopium. But you see polls that are like that. And if that's a huge D to R pipeline, if that is real. Because you are directly taking huge votes that the Democrats need, especially in states like Georgia, where they absolutely won, in states like Pennsylvania, where there is high African-American support, Michigan, where there's high African-American support. Those states specifically, if you do see an erosion of specifically black male support for the Democrats, that's a problem. That's a real problem. That's not only a problem for 2020, that's a problem going forward. By the way, top of the hour, I will be speaking to former recently retired border chief, Chris Clem, who I met during my trip down to the border. And I'm going to be talking to him about his time as a border chief, and specifically a conversation that I had with him while I was there informally. That the one thing that never really in my Columbo, there's just one thing that doesn't make sense. If we are to believe, and Chris Clem is of the belief that Biden's policies on the border ramped up the asylum situation that we see right now. And I'm sympathetic to that argument, but the thing that doesn't make sense to me is like it just seems my guardrails go, my spidey sense starts tingling because it is in agreement with a very news junkie perspective. And so my question to him while I was there was like, are the cartels news junkies? Are the cartels like seriously watching like all of this dialogue? Are they following hashtags because they know the second that there's a executive order that overreaches or takes away a border protection that existed before, that now it's like go, 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 go? His argument is yes. And so we will fill that out on our interview. All of this will be on the podcast. We will not be doing it live. I wonder if maybe the 20% black vote for Trump is overestimating it. I think Biden will have less of the black vote than he did in 2020. Yeah, I mean, the question, I think, Trump had 8% of the black vote. Normally it's anywhere between 4 and 8%, depending on the year. Trump is at the high end of that. Trump at double digits, I think possible, plausible based on the polling. Trump at like 20, 30%, like you've seen in some of these, like, I don't know about that. Although you did have Kodak Black saying that Donald Trump should be president for 12 years. Shout out. 954 represent. Me and Kodak Black. Love Kodak Black. No one put Broward on the map like Kodak Black. You love to see it. Have I thought about doing interviews live? Here's the problem. What is the phenomenon that observing a thing changes the thing? The very nature of observation makes the phenomenon not what it would have been otherwise. I am fine doing things live because I've spent a lot of time live. If I'm introducing interview people that are not used to it, they're going to be watching the fucking chat. Chat's going to start fighting with each other. People are going to say something over the top and it's going to be fucked up. And then all of a sudden we're having a conversation about the chat and not what I want to have a conversation about. The interviews we do for PX3 are tight. They are 30 minutes live to tape. I believe that we can punch above our weight a lot of times to get people because we are only a 30-minute interview. I'm not asking them to be on for a full hour. And so in that scenario, any wasted moment, any element of things being distracted, I do think take away. So in the future, if it's like a friend, if it's Tom or something like that, maybe we could do it live, but that would be a special occasion. Now, they are going to be live. I mean, now all the shows are video, so you'll be able to watch it. There will be a visual component to it. But live is, you know. Oh, by the way, We're Not Wrong. We had to edit something out of We're Not Wrong on this week's episode. There was a question at the end of the episode. It's actually kind of funny if you listen to the show. So there was an email needling Jen about whether or not she pays everybody that works for her a living wage. Jen parried it by saying, yes, I pay everybody hourly. I pay them well above what would be mandated in California, which I thought was a very sensible answer for Jen. Heaton then went into a little bit more detail of what he pays his editor. And then I talked glowingly about Will Saddleberg, who I work with on Dog and Pony Show Audio, and I think is great. And I think Cannon should be doing more in the world of podcasting. And I essentially just pay him a monthly fee that sometimes the only shit he has to do is edit We're Not Wrong, which if you look at that based on how long it takes, roughly 2 hours, with what I pay him, then he's getting paid a significant amount per hour, is all I'll say. Sometimes he does a lot more, and so it is less. But I mostly pay him at rain or shine because I want to make sure that he stays in the fold. But we cut it because Heaton was uncomfortable about in the kind of detail that he talked about what he pays his editor. But it makes it really awkward because we cut the entire thing. And then at the very end, you can hear, like, when I do my outro, that We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is, and then I go like, the beautiful and handsome Will Saddleberg. And it makes a lot more sense when we're talking about the fact that I'm his boss and I pay him money. And so I am trying to be nice on the backside of it. But when you remove the pretext to it, it just sounds like I'm flirting with Will. That is out now. You can hear that now. But just know there was a question that we cut out. But anyway, this is the first time that's happened. Meryl, we're not taking calls. Because I gotta leave. Because I gotta get ready for this interview. Yeah. A little Willis Wade action going on in the Dog and Pony Show. Yeah, sorry. Although I do have some Hollywood news. I went to go see the premiere of The Idea of You, a rom-com starring Anne Hathaway that will be on streaming, I think, in May. But a competent rom-com. Directed by Michael Showalter, co-written by Michael Showalter. It is about a 40-year-old mother of a teenager, a high schooler, who, through meet-cute rom-com standards, gets into a relationship with a very Harry Styles-coded boy band member, a 24-year-old boy band member. And a lot of banging happens. So, there we go. But I was in the same room with, really, the people that I was most excited to be in the same room with were Michael Showalter, who is a hero to mine because of The State. And, oh, God, I literally... I have a hard time remembering Reed Scott's name, Dan Egan from Veep. But he just now plays a professional asshole because he's amazing at being a professional asshole. But he is Anne Hathaway's ex-husband in this movie. And he was sitting like 2 rows in front of me. I was very excited to be near Danny again. Prices are still high, but the inflation rates have gone down. Well, they actually went back up last month. Inflation ticked back up. But anyway. All right. That's it for us. Till next time. I will see you later, friends.